What is up, YouTube? BB368 coming at you with another deck profile for a deck that I recently just play tested last night. It actually got me into top 4 for my locals, which top 4 with rounds of 4. So deck did fairly consistent. Deck was very fun to play. Overall, I would definitely say, like, if you guys can try and give this deck a try, it is a very good rogue option. The only expensive cards, obviously, are the Caspar and the Starfire. Everything else is relatively cheap to get the deck together. So I would highly suggest, if you guys can, just go out and give this deck a try. It's pretty fun. It's fairly consistent, again. And most of my matchups were pretty good. So honestly, let's just get right into it and let's get it with the card by card. Obviously, your top 3, your starter that you really want to be seeing most of the time is Caspar. Basically, for those of you who are not familiar with the archetype, basically all of the magical muskets basically have the same effect of you can activate magical musket spells and traps from your hand. So basically, you don't have to set anything. Basically, all of them become hand traps against your opponent. And they also have a stipulation of a certain effect if a spell or trap card is activated in the same column. Like, let's say these are the center 3 columns. If I activate a spell and trap card in this column, it would activate this one's effect. So basically, when an effect is activated in his column, you get to search out a magical musket card from your deck to your hand. So obviously, absolutely have to play 3 of him. Then you play triple Starfire. For her, it's basically you get to special summon a magical musket monster from your deck. Absolutely have to play 3. The kid did not see much use of his effect during the game. It was just the fact of he was a big beater. He is, for most of the regular monsters, he does have the highest attack count, which is 16. So most of the time it's like you probably could cut him down to 1, which honestly I might right now. I did make a few tuning changes to the deck. I may cut him down to 3, but at the same time that would affect my magical musket count, because you always want to see a magical musket on the field to be able to do anything from your hand. So I may just leave it at 41. Originally last night it was 42, and I'll show you the changes that I made from the things that I saw. One of them being I changed a dock from... I did run 2 dock last night. Obviously, if you open with dock, it's not as good because, again, when a card is activated in dock's column, he can basically add a magical musket card from the graveyard to your hand. So basically, he allows recursion. So obviously, if you open with this card, it's kind of dead because you can't exactly activate a magical musket card right behind him and then be able to return that. It's, unfortunate. But I did change it over to a calamity because I did see a few times where I would be able to make a Abyss Dweller with other cards that you will see in my deck. And if I have her, I would be able to make an easy Exceeds play without wasting too many resources. But changes made. I think this will be a much better match or a much better running for the deck next week. Then for the hand traps, I run triple Ghost Ogre and double Ash. Honestly, I do have a really strong feeling that Ghost Ogre is the new hand trap of the format. Ash is good, but it's still the fact of Ash is good for spells and traps. Unfortunately, Ghost Ogre is much better for the monsters because, again, cool, you get to add a card. Like if you wait, let's say you're playing against a Dragonlink player and they summons Overraptor. Effect to add a card to hand. Cool, I'll Ghost Ogre it. Guess what? You can't. That's cool that you got that, but now you're not gonna be able to go into your synchro play unless you have quick launch because, again, I just made you waste an extra resource to get out that synchro summon. So I really feel that this is like optimal hand trap lineup. You may be able to fill around and maybe get a third Ash in there, but as far as I saw last night, like Ghost Ogre definitely put in work. Going into spells and traps, obviously you're going to play Cross Domination. This is basically, this card is honestly really broken. For those of you who don't know, basically you activate this card from your hand. Your opponent, target an opponent's monster, its attack and defense becomes 0, and its effects are negated. So basically, anything that your opponent's going to try and do. This is basically another effect negation, and also something that will help you basically get over all your opponent's monsters. Again, it turns your attack into 0, so that's really, really good, along with effect negations. So even if, for example, you're playing against like a Subterror player, your attack is Guru. He flips up the Guru. During damage step, you activate this. He does not get the effect because the effect will not go off until the end resolution of the battle. Triple mind control. Absolutely have to. The way I play my deck is blind second. It's the most optimal way to play of Magical Muskets, in my opinion, because again, in order to use Max's effect, which is the Link monster that I will show you in my Exer deck, the only way that you're able to get the most advantage out of the deck is either from Max or from, obviously, one of the traps that I will show you. But another way that you can gain advantage is also with mind control, because there was one play where I literally had almost a full field of monsters. I just was going off. Made Caster, he had a bunch of back row. Mind controlled his monster. Kaspar's effect, grabbed another card, made Max. Max summoned up a bunch of monsters because he had back row. I did so much just from one card being able to steal his monster. So definitely the best way to run the deck is a blind second, and definitely with triple mind control. This is kind of standard, triple call by the grave. Obviously, I think you guys already know what that does by now. Your draw engine or free activation cards. Desires, 2 desires, 1 upstart goblin. It's pretty self-explanatory. You kind of need to activate your cards somehow, so what better way than to gain advantage by drawing cards from your deck. And then double instant fusion. I do have a Thousand Knives Relinquished in the deck, so that's an easy way to steal your monster, go into a Link Karibo, and go and move on from the plays. But also, I do run Mud Dragon as well, so that's an easy way of making an Exceed play, or again, just going into a random Link 2 if possible. And another change, the reason I went from 40 to 41 is because I'm thinking of playing Steady Hands. For those who don't know, basically it's a quick play, so it can also be activated during the damage step. It basically doubles the attack and defense of one of your magical musket monsters until the end of the turn. So there was a lot of times where it's like, man, it would be really nice if my guys were a little bit bigger. So that's why I'm thinking about just playing the 1, see how that will work out next week. A lot of decks are usually playing 1, but most of them are playing the control, like destroy everything and don't care. So we'll see. I'd like to give it a try. Then we go right into the traps. Obviously, you play a Triple Desperado. This is basically another self-explanatory. Destroy target one face-up card on the field and destroy it. Have to absolutely run 3. MVP of the day, of the day yesterday. Seriously, because again, every single time, if my opponent overcommits, I'm severely punishing them for it with this evenly matched. Again, this card is the MVP of the day. Like, it put in work. There are so many times that my opponent minused so much just because, again, he kept setting cards, and then my card field will be clear, and it's like, okay, evenly matched. Let's get rid of everything. Let's start fresh. The downside to evenly matched is that your max is not going to get as much advantage. But honestly, at that point, you've gained so much, and that was just one card out of your opening hand. Let's assume that you used a hand trap the turn before. That's still 4 cards in your hand to be able to do anything that you need to do. So, and plus you get to skip the battle phase. So honestly, at that point, like, you still put in the work. Like, you're still definitely in the card advantage league. Double Last Stand. This is your counter trap for the Magical Muskets. Basically, yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. Your opponent tries to activate a spell and trap card, negate it, get it out of here. And then 1 Dancing Needle and 1 Fiendish Deal. Fiendish Deal, I feel like I would like to bump this up to 2, but I could feel that it could be definitely really bricky because, for those who don't know, Fiendish Deal basically prevents all your Magical Musket monsters from being destroyed by card effects. And if a Magical Musket card is sent from the field to the grave by an opponent's card effect, you get to add a Magical Musket card from your graveyard or your deck to your hand. So automatically, definitely a really good card to have. Definitely a good card to have. Oh, that's actually on this card. Okay, so never mind. That's only when this card is sent. Okay, so Note to self, I need to remember that for tomorrow. And Dancing Needle, definitely a really good card because a few times it came in handy against Salamangreats because I would be trying to do whatever and it's like, okay, yeah, that's enough. Let's activate Dancing Needle. Let's get rid of that Baylink, Link, and let's get rid of something else. So definitely a good card to have, definitely against anti-meta decks, or should I say yes, a deck like Orcust, Salamangreats, stuff like that. Definitely a good card to run. Going into the extra deck, Abyss Dweller. Again, I didn't really see much of it yesterday, and that was because, again, I didn't have another level 4 to be able to do anything, because Starfire cannot summon another Starfire, and Max can only summon out one Starfire at a time. So, again, we'll be trying Calamities next week, seeing if I'll be able to make her a little bit more. Then, obviously, your Fusion lineup. What about 5? Relinquish and Muddragon obviously are your targets for instant fusion. Chimera obviously for the Salamangreat matchup. Starving Venom, and these are also for any Pendulum players that you may run into. Also, second MVP of the deck, the most broken card that they came out with for this deck, Magical Musket Max. For those who don't know, basically when this guy is summoned to the field, basically you get to either add spells and traps up to the number of monsters that they control, or special summon monsters up to the number of spells and traps that they control. Fortunately for me, most of the decks I was playing last night were fairly heavy back row. Let's see, I played Salamangreats 3 times. I played a Subterror, and then I played a Spiral. So 2 of them, I would say, wait, that was 3. So basically 4 of the decks were fairly heavy back row reliant. So basically every single time I was just spamming out this guy's monsters to the field. Obviously against Subterror, that's when you had to play a little bit smarter, not to overextend because he was playing Torrential Tribute and playing a bunch of Solemn Strikes. So whenever I was summoning a card, I would definitely make a priority not to activate any effects because again, my big monster counts are so low that basically it's very hard for them to beat over anything without getting advantage from their effects. So definitely be careful whenever you're running against Subterror. And it was unfortunate also for the Subterror player because every single time he activated City, I had the Ash Blossom, and then either I had evenly matched or I drew the evenly matched the next time, the next turn. So it was really unfortunate for him. But yeah, obviously 3 Max, 1 Link Karibo for the Relinquish, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, Cerberus, and Unicorn. Didn't make him much, but there's a Boral Sword just in case you want to like try and OTK your opponent. And I'm debating on keeping the Appaloosa. I feel like I should, but I don't know. I'm still thinking about whether I want to sell it or whether I want to keep it. Honestly, at this point, I may keep it. There were a few times where having her on the field definitely would have been a lot of help. So if you guys can, I would definitely say get an Appaloosa. Going into the side deck, 2 Dark Rulers No More and a Nibiru. Obviously, if I had 3 of each, I would probably be choosing the Nibiru over the Dark Ruler No More because a lot of people, at least if I'm going to my locals at least, a lot of decks are not playing like Dragon Links or anything like that. So Nibiru would definitely be the better card for my locals, but unfortunately for now I only have the 1. Hopefully I can pick up the 2nd or 3rd later on. Twin Twisters, barely saw any play even though I sided it in. Lancia got in there when I played against Spirals. Honestly, I made the mistake. Game 1 I just basically beat him out from steady hands and steady field control. Game 2, he just wiped me out with an OTK because again he was removing. So I was like, oh hey, wait a second. It's like, oh, let's put this in here. And within the first 5 turns, I already drew 2. So literally back-to-back turns, I dropped Lancia and he was not able to do anything, unfortunately. Then obviously, triple super problemization for the fusions that I have. And triple Pinker Chops, that might be something else, but honestly at this point I feel like Pinker Chops is probably the better choice because again this is a blind going second deck. Overall, as you guys saw, the only changes I made was adding 1 Calamity and adding one of the steady hands. So to the overall deck, I feel the deck will still probably perform just as well as it did yesterday, but that is my magical Musket deck profile. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you guys have any suggestions of cards that I should throw in here, cards that I should take out. Are my changes understandable to you guys? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for other deck profiles. And be sure to check out my YouTube channel for other fun, cheap deck profiles as well. Other than that, peace.